The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Open your eyes.
Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Open Your Eye, the podcast focused on psychedelics as a medicine. And I'm, of course, right here on the Pace Radio Network, of course, joined by my awesome joint host, the one and only Madame Cindy Howell. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm sorry.
Good. I'm tired.
I scoffed down another cookie while the opening was going on. So.
Scoffing down cookies, soaking up the dabs. We're trying to get it all done. It been a very extremely busy day for me, and I know it's been a busy month for both of us. We're both in the middle of major moves and builds and all kinds of stuff going on. It's been an extremely busy summer, and we're both on our journey through psychedelic medicines. So throughout this year, we've been interviewing patients, shaman, lawyers, and patients around everywhere. And I thought, I think it's time that we catch our audience up on us, your hosts of this grand show of ours, and update everybody on our own personal journeys and how we're handling sort of all of the stresses that life has thrown at us throughout this past summer with all that's going on and dealing with our issues with natural medicine.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. People are following our journeys because we are so public about it. So it's a great time to stop and take a few moments and do just that.
Yeah. We're so busy interviewing everybody else. Sometimes we forget about ourselves. And I know I get asked, a million questions over the course of a month about how it's going and, what I'm doing and that. And I thought, well, I know you encounter the same thing. And we talk about it sort of in bits and spurts here and there. So yeah, let's dedicate tonight's show to the joint hosts here that are also embarked on our own journeys with psychedelic medicines and doing things very differently and with very different elements in the medicinal world. So multiple aspects are very different, and which just goes to show, what works for one doesn't work for all. And just because one person travels one path doesn't mean that's the path for you. We're living proof of that.
Absolutely. When we were both microdosing the psilocybin, two completely different ways of doing it, and it worked for us.
Yeah, exactly. So before we dive into us, I'd also like to take a few minutes to talk about a new venture that you and I have begun. Yes. Lots of fun with a brand new show.
Yes, yeah, because we're just not busy enough. So we thought, hey, why not throw another show on top of that? And off we went. But it's again in the psychedelic realm, which is where I have found my focus turning to. I mean, I still love cannabis. I'll never abandon cannabis. I got cannabis in my hand right now. I'm about to light. But I have implemented other natural medicines from the psychedelic realm, and wow, man, this whole realm is very interesting.
It is. It's extremely interesting. There are so many aspects, so many plants, fungi, herbs, and even chemical agents out there that have been around for decades upon decades. that advance the journeys through psychedelics as a medicine, and the results are truly astounding that people are getting out of them. I mean, everything from peyote to LSD, iboga, ayahuasca, mushrooms,
mean,
DMT, ketamine. There's endless substances out there that are doing a world of good for people. And I know for some out there, it's kind of shocking. It's like, what? No, acid isn't a medicine.
yes, it
Or,
is.
no, ketamine is not a medicine. That's what they use at raves to get high and all of that kind of thing. But we're learning as we go here. And yes, indeed, it is a medicine when used properly in low doses. It's far safer than some of the pharmaceutical prescriptions that are going on out there, prescribing some pretty scary antidepressants and mood altering substances that are put out by the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, yeah, we have both fallen prey to pharmaceuticals, um, for many reasons, and we both used cannabis to get off of pharmaceuticals, eventually leading us into, as we've talked on many occasions, mushrooms, but both in different ways with the mushrooms. It's led me, along another path to try iboga and DMT, which, man, it'll be 4 months. It's the 9th now, so 4 months in 8 more days since I met Gareth and Blair, and man, it's still absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah. The change, I can tell you firsthand, the change is profound. I worked with you for a year prior to your first iboga journey, and working with you since you've come back, joining you on that journey as much as I could via, long distance communication through video chat and so forth, and keeping in touch with you and the people that you were with during that journey. I know what you went through, and seeing the difference, it's truly profound.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I
It's
honestly,
in a good way.
I hear that a lot. I find it strange because I see me as the same person with just a
Yeah.
lot more confidence and a better ability to vocalize what's in here and in here. So, yes, I've changed, but no, I haven't changed at the same time. It's because I'm still me. It's just
Yeah.
that, I have more confidence to go do things than I never had before. Like, I mean, whether it be to reach out to somebody just to say hi, want to have a sesh. Like, I mean, think about how many times I did that before iboga, to how many times I bug
Yeah.
you after iboga, because I didn't have the confidence before. Oh, they're too busy. They don't want to talk to me. They don't want to hear from me. And now it's just like, well, if you don't have time for me, I'll go find somebody else. Off I go.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
big
And
difference. Yeah.
it's not against you. If I say I don't have time for you, it's not I don't have time for you. It's like, hey man, I'm busy, but maybe later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's not taken internally. It's not taken personally as a personal rejection at all anymore. And that's a major difference. You mentioned something there. You're still me. You're still yourself. You haven't changed. You're more confident in that. And I think I can relate to that in a lot of ways myself with my own coming out, not nearly as dramatic as what you've gone through, very, very low key compared to the struggles and the trials that you've personally had on a completely different level for me, but very similar aspects internally, like within the brain, the stuff that's going on. Um, I think confidence, yes, but I think what people see as versus what you see, you've been seeing the real you inside your head all this time. You know it's in there. You're talking, saying, "Yeah, you want to do this. Yeah, you want to do this." Your PTSD is what prevented you from doing that. But you were having that conversation in your head. Everybody else wasn't.
Yeah.
So for you, there's not a dramatic change because you knew all this the whole time. You just couldn't say it. And now you can. And that's the confidence now going forward. I think that comes, I don't know if it's so much confidence as inner peace, allowing you to be you, and those barriers no longer stopping you.
Yeah, that is definitely a large part of it. The part of me that was so broken before has, as I've I told the story. I mean, like, I've helped her come out of the shadows and walk in the light and start to heal.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. I don't have part of me, a large part of me, living over there in the corner in the dark, trying to hide from the world. Yeah, we're walking in the light now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. And I mean, everybody that struggles throughout this is doing something different. We're all struggling on a different level, but nonetheless, we're all still struggling. And it can help so many. And we're finally seeing advancements in acceptance, advancements in science and experimentation, patients, clinical trials, corporations applying for licenses to grow substances that can be then turned into medicine. Much of it following the same footsteps as cannabis has followed in the past towards acceptance and perhaps future legalization as a medicine. Very exciting times indeed. And the results I've seen so far, I haven't seen it fail anybody. Now, it may not do the 100% trick that you were looking for it to do, but it did something. It sets everybody on a path to find the correct substance that will help, because no matter how little it helps, even if it's only a small amount, it helps something, and it opens something up in your mind. It's like, okay, well, if that can do this, and there are different varieties of this sort of a thing out there, I just have to find the right one and it's going to work. And I think as soon as you take the leap into using this as a medicine, you see that right away.
Yeah. I had iboga put in front of me first. Like, I mean, I was using psilocybin for a while. I went to the documentary. Iboga was kind of smacked down in my lap and put in my face. I eventually started learning about other substances, such as ayahuasca, or I learned about DMT along the way, and I did end up incorporating that into my iboga. I learned a little bit more about peyote. I came across people that were able to offer these ceremonies, and for some reason, I knew that iboga was my way.
Yeah,
I don't know why I knew.
Something spoke to you right away with that.
Absolutely, yeah.
As soon as we started finding out, you're like, I have to do this. I have to do this. You were like, you were on the fast track, man. You're like, oh, I have to do this. You were determined immediately.
Yeah, that was, I mean, we were Facebook friends at the time, but we hadn't started working together yet, because that was a couple of years ago. So it was about a year before we did the whole IWK thing, and then a couple more months going into PACE. So it's been a long time that iboga was set in front of me. I mean, like, I know the exact timeline. It was 2 years, 1 month, and 3 days from the time I learned about iboga to the time I met, Gareth and Blair. Yeah. And, every step along the way, including the 2 years, 1 month, and 3 days leading up to it, was part of the journey. Every day I had to question, is this really what I want to do? I'm heading towards it. As I started learning more about it and finding guides, it was just like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to take their time? As I learned, the preparation for everything. Well, do I really want to spend that money? Do I really want to put myself through that diet? Do I really, I had to question it every time I turned around. So by the time I got there, I mean, like I had questioned it probably a good 100 times, and I knew where I was going. Yeah.
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 Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So, I mean, anybody that's suffering, you know, and using pharmaceutical medications for PTSD, for depression, anxiety, even pain. We've shown through patient stories, as well as through stories we've covered at the start of many of our shows, covering news articles. There's clinical evidence, and there's, as well as a whole pile of anecdotal evidence, that there is actual physical benefits as well as the mental benefits to using these substances. You know, we've heard of patient stories when we had on our producer lady that came on with us, was telling us about
Karen, yeah.
a lady that when Karen was on, and she was telling us about the lady that she interviewed that used it for end of life and got better, and then wasn't dying anymore and no longer on palliative care. And oh my God, her stomach is healed. She doesn't need surgery, and she's no longer dying, and now she's off living her life. So there's physical healing
Oh,
going on
sure.
with many of these. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, that somebody would turn to this for end of life uh, calmness, to bring peace to their conclusion of their journey, what they believe is the conclusion of their journey. And then within a week, you're like, okay, well, hang on, I want to get out of bed. Everybody's like, what? What? Wait a minute. What's happening here? And now she's off living her life.
Yeah. Yeah. No. These spirit medicines that we do, like, I mean, which is, I believe anything that's natural, anything that comes from the earth. I even include cannabis in that. Cannabis has a spirit with it. Psilocybin fungi have spirits with it. You know, when we talk about spirit medicines in the psychedelic world, a lot of people refer to the heavier ones, the peyote, the ayahuasca, the iboga. You know, heavy doses. They call them hero doses of psilocybin. But I mean, it all comes with some sort of spirituality to it. But the spirit medicine, when you take a deep trip, yeah, it can physically heal you. Like, I mean, you can talk to, in my case, the iboga doctor. And I think Karen was telling us about somebody who tried ayahuasca. So they would have been with Mother Ayahuasca, and she's an amazing nurse. It's not the first. That was the first time I've heard of any of that happening. But since I've done iboga and been in more rooms and done more research, wow, the stories that I read are just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, people, they talk to this medicine in hopes to gain peace, but while gaining peace, they ask for healing, and boy, howdy, do they get healed.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's kind of why I brought that up. You know, she spoke about that journey, and speaking to Aya, Karen always referred her as Aya, and of course, she was speaking about ayahuasca as an entity during her trips. Now, these are all what is referred to as like reset doses, or what did you refer to it as a moment ago?
Oh, the big
You said
dose.
the big dose, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a major dose that you take. This isn't about microdosing. This is about macrodosing, and you know, going
Oh,
on
the hero dose was
purposely taking
psilocybin.
yourself on a journey. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're going on a journey, and you're going to float above yourself, and you're going to experience spirituality like you've never experienced before. Reset doses isn't something that you do like daily or weekly or anything like that. They're spread apart for the most part, with a number of days, if not weeks or months in between. And in my experience, majority of people are able to do 1 or 2 reset doses and then carry on for quite some time with micro dosing in between, And I want to talk about that again in a few minutes. But when you're on your macrodose and you're speaking to the spirit, whether it be Aya or Dr. Iboga, you can, for you with Iboga, you went to asked to be transported to the Iboga hospital. You spoke to the Iboga doctor. And when you came back from your 18-hour Iboga journey, your chronically dislocated hip was no longer dislocated.
Yeah. Yeah. My nurse, when I was heading into my big reset dose, my big hero dose, he was telling me about how he came across the hospital in one of his journeys, and he said you should try it. Just if you come across it, go in and have a chat with the doctor and tell him something that ails you. And of course, Patrick has much more eloquent words than what I'm paraphrasing, but. So I did. I came across. I did. I walked up upon a hospital in my spirit walk. I giggled to myself. I remember it plain as day. It was one of the most relaxing moments, to be honest, because it it was exactly what I was told it was going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like it made me feel at ease to come across this hospital. Like, okay, so Patrick's with me somehow, right? So I thought of Patrick when I came, and I giggled, and I went in, and I talked to the doctor, and I have a car accident dislocated my right hip a long time ago. I'm 50 years old. I was 21 when it happened, so it's been a little bit, right? I was 49 because it was I was technically 49, but almost 50 when I went through Iboga. And so I went in and I talked to the doctor, and I'm still kind of, chuckling to myself because I really don't believe that it's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? And I said, dislocated my right hip causes me a lot of pain. It'd be kind of cool if it was back in, relocated and kind of, back there permanently. And my hip clicked. My hip clicked. I shit you not. My hip clicked. And, so the next morning when I saw Patrick, because he was gone by the time I came back, came back from the Iboga Spirit Walk. So the next day I put my hands on my front hip bones, and normally my right hip bone is down 1/4 of an inch, and he said no, they're even. So since then I've gone and had them checked out by a doctor, and I am. I mean, they're realigned. My right hip is clicked back in. Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, these major macrodoses. I mean, there's macrodosing and then there's major macrodosing as far as I'm concerned, right? Hero dosing. That's what you called it. Hero dosing. Hero dosing. I like that. I'm going to use that in future. But I mean, see, that's not something that I considered for my journey. I know it worked perfectly for you, and that's what you needed, and I think it's fantastic. But for me, I am nervous about that kind of a dose. I'm hesitant. I'm a little bit nervous about that kind of dose, and I've been using psychedelics recreationally. I'm a child of the 70s. I was a teenager in the 70s. Of course, I've used psychedelics recreationally. There's no question about that. So of course, yes, I did use them recreationally, and I did probably some hero doses back in the day, more than likely, given the fact we didn't know what the hell we were doing or what we had. Majority of the time, somebody just gave you something and you ate it without a clue. So, yeah, no doubt I did that back in the day. But now, today, as a patient, my journey has been with microdosing regularly and mini macrodosing with the occasional macrodose, but controlled macrodose. I don't think I've gone above 4 grams of mushrooms, and most of them are medium to low dose, except our one journey in Toronto weekend. They were very, very high dose, and we did a lot of them.
She did. I did one bite. That's it.
Yeah, me and everybody else in that house did a lot of them. But yeah, that was almost over the top for me, but not quite. But it was still in the realms of macro dosing, not hero dosing. It was still under 5 grams of major stuff. So and it works for me. I feel that it's working for me. Could I be better off than I am now with, a hero dose and guidance into larger realms? Maybe, maybe anything's possible. Uh, but I feel like I'm okay where I am. I still do want to advance further, but I don't think I'm ready yet. For the big ones, for like ayahuasca and for iboga. But I am absolutely geared up and ready to advance into a macrodose of DMT. And I think that's my next step is DMT. And I'm very much looking forward to that. But I microdose very differently than you do as well.
Yeah.
We both have different ways of microdosing. I have my grow that I do. I grow my own mushrooms and I'll pull one out of the bag and I'll look at it and I say, yeah, that looks good. And I eat it. Where you do it where
I have my
the
phone
way
set
they
with
want you to do it, you
reminders.
grind it up.
Every 3 days, I take
Yeah.
a microdose. I take a controlled microdose. I know exactly what I'm taking, exactly what strain I'm taking. Yeah, so it's a little bit different. I do throw
Yeah.
macrodoses in there from time to time, and they're not always for medicinal purposes. I want to giggle with some friends, so I'm going to take, more
Yeah.
mushrooms. But I normally then I don't get strain specific. I'll take something that makes you giggly, right? Like, like
Yeah.
it's if it's the golden
Yeah.
teachers, I just take a little bit extra, right? They still make you giggly. They're very mild. So instead of a half a gram, you need a gram, or instead of a gram, you need 2 grams, right? So yeah, but yeah, I still do
Yeah.
macrodose because I do like to giggle, and I do it for both recreational and medicinal purposes. It's just great stuff.
Yeah. I like bringing this up because we are so very different on our paths. And I like discussing it a lot because it lets people know there is no one path. There's
Oh,
no right way. What's the right way to do it? Well, what's right for you isn't right for the next guy, and
absolutely. Yeah.
everybody's path is absolutely different, right? Um, Me, for my personality, I'm known already. I wing it. I mean, somebody will call me up with a canceled show and I have to jump in as joint host on 5 minutes notice. I don't have a clue who the guest is or what we're doing, but yeah, I'm going to wing it. Let's do it. Um, and I kind of handle my mushrooms the same way, right? And I'm winging it.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the bag. This one looks good. And I kind of wait for my body and my mind to tell me when it's time for a macro dose.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I help. I've helped over the last couple of 3 years a number of people microdose and decide how they're going to do it and find their way. Right. The once every 3
Yeah.
days works for me. It works wonders for me. It really helped. I really enjoyed it. I did. I did. Macro them out once in a while. I helped one person. She eventually settled on doing a minor macro dose once a week, and it made all the difference for her. We have a mutual friend that, well, he hero doses on a daily basis. We have another person that we interview that, well, she gajillion hero doses on a daily basis, and it's what works for them. So like
Yeah.
here I am taking 125 milligrams every 3 days, little miss weak ass over here, but it works for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think hero dose has to be kept in context too, right? Much of that depends on tolerance and how long you've been doing this. A hero dose for a newbie could be 2 grams, and a hero dose for the individual you're speaking of on that particular patient, you got to get beyond, 50 and 40 grams, 30 to 50 grams. And somebody will say, what? No, 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 no. And it's like,
But that's literally how different we all are. It's the same with cannabis. Like, I mean, before my cannabinoids were stripped, I was a 2,500 milligram a day person. That's what I needed just to keep the pain at a level that I could function. Yeah. And some people, I know I've got a friend who, I mean, he's a big dude. 5 milligrams knocks him on his ass.
Yeah.
Everybody's different.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, exactly. So hero dose, again, it's not about a number. How much is in a hero dose? Well, how often do you consume psychedelics? Are you brand new to this? Do you microdose? What's your metabolism like? What type of psychedelic are you using? Even if you just come to me and say mushrooms, well, what kind of mushroom? Because there are hundreds upon hundreds of strains, and they all do something different. And if you're going to an infused dinner, always ask what the strain is before you eat the dinner.
You order. Because otherwise, you're gonna go say goodbye to everybody, and their faces are gonna be melted off on the floor, and you're gonna end up in the middle of a cab, desperately trying to get out, and then you're gonna freak the cab driver out because you're talking about putting tasers away that really aren't there. Yeah.
That aren't even there, and it's going to cost you a whole lot of money to keep your cab rating at none of that cab. So
but at the end of the day, you're going to have a great story, and you're going to have a memory that binds you together, because that's just
forever.
One that's never ever going to be forgotten.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, hero doses are absolutely dependent on many factors, including strain being, of course, the ultimate factor, as well as your own personal tolerance and limits on use. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to learn. There's much to discuss about our own personal journeys, because they've been quite extensive. You're several years in. I'm a few years in. You got about a year or a year and a half or something of doing this prior to me getting into it. And like I say, very different stories where I'm just kind of walking around winging it. Hey, let's do this and see what happens. And it seems to be working for me. Okay, pretty good right now. So where you're very much more regimented, and there's everything in between that we've talked to patients over the past year, and facilitators and shaman and lawyers, and I mean everybody.
Yeah. And like we're talking a lot about mushrooms here, but it's the same in all medicines. Like, I mean, that are going across. Like, I mean, whether we're talking about cannabis, whether we're talking about psilocybin, but this can also relate to peyote or LSD or iboga, ayahuasca. Like, I mean, it all kind of goes together. It's medicine across the board. Start start low, go slow, and figure out your dosage. As corny as that sounds,
the human body. Yeah. The human body. I mean, let's take a quick look at that. We're going to go to break in a couple of minutes, and when we do come back, we're going to have a guest on with us tonight, a relative. Okay, we should do a little guessing thing. Let's everybody guess. Whose relative is it? Mine or Cindy's? But a relative's going to come on and talk about the changes that person has seen.
Yeah.
What relative?
Oh yeah, that's a big hint, isn't it?
Personal stories. Personal stories going to happen here. But before we do that, what the hell was I going to say? I don't know. It's doobie time is what I was going to say. It's doobie time. See, it's gone. I should have just kept going with what I was going to say on my thought, because now it's gone. It's been that kind of day for me.
We were talking about psychedelics, and we were talking about. I said start low, go slow. I'm sorry about how corny that sounds, but it's the truth. And then you were going to go into something, and then we lost it.
Yeah. And I lost it, and it's gone, and it's history. It's forgotten now. But there's many elements that we're going to discuss throughout the journeys of these shows, talking to patients all over, from everything from that's what it was, the human body, the human body, the human body. What do when we examine the human body, we produce elements that are found in psychedelic and plant therapy that are out there. Mother's milk produces cannabinoids. We're feeding cannabinoids to our newborn babies because our body is producing them without consuming cannabis that's in your mother's milk. DMT is produced in your brain when you sleep. It's part of our sleeping chemical that comes off of your brain. You're producing DMT within your own brain cells. Ibogaine is produced by your organs.
In your liver.
And distributed to your liver and distributed throughout your body. So when you find these elements inside your body and then you find them in nature, that's what we call symbiosis, right? They're supposed to be there. They're supposed to be in our bodies. And then we find them in nature. Well, we're supposed to be consuming these plants to create homeostasis within our own selves through mind, body, and soul, being one with nature, because it's already in us anyway. We're just feeding those receptors that already exist so that we can all stay very, very well. And that's the goal. Is symbiotic health and learning to live within one's own self, and plants and elements in nature can help us get there. That's for sure. We're going to go to break, and then we're going to come back and talk to a relative of somebody and see talk about some changes, see if there are any changes. Have there been changes? Are they noticeable? What are they like? And on our way to break, we got a brand new commercial up and talking about our brand new show, Psychedelic Reporters, and a station identification, as well as a word from our sponsors are coming at you next. And we'll be back in about 4 minutes and 20 seconds to talk to you some more here on Open Your Eye. Back in a flash. Next week on Psychedelic Tuesdays here on Pace Radio. Tune in at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for the Psychedelic Reporters. Bufo Alvarius is scouring the newswires for stories being reported in mainstream media on the psychedelic front, and passing them on to joint host Cindy Howell and me, Kim Cooper, so we can bring them to you, our listeners, in this 60-minute video news podcast. Join us on Psychedelic Tuesdays each week at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for all your news and information from the world of psychedelic medicine.
Hey man, Psychedelic Tuesdays at 7 p.m. here on paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our hydroponics superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive. The only way to go.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CP. The Pace Radio Network is the place to be for all your information from the world of psychedelics, because we are pleased to bring our listeners 2 shows focusing on psychedelic therapy in the world of natural medicine. First up, we have Open Your Eye, which airs on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of each month. Open Your Eye is a 90-minute video podcast with Kim Cooper and Cindy Howell interviewing patients and professionals in the space. Patient stories, facilitators, lawyers, and others discuss their journeys and endeavors involving psychedelic medicine. But they're not done, because Kim and Cindy are back on alternate Tuesdays at 7 p.m. with psychedelic reporters as they bring along the show's mascot, Bufo, aka the Colorado Mud Toad, who is scouring the news wires for all the latest in psychedelic news. He then passes it on to Kim and Cindy to cover in this 60-minute video news podcast. So tune in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern for Psychedelic Tuesdays right here on the Pace Radio Network, found at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Once again, peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Check them out.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
And we're back from our commercial break, and many thanks to our sponsors for joining us here at paceradio.net. Open Your Eye, of course, the very first video podcast launched here on the network, opening the doors to many that have followed since, with the majority of our radio shows now on the video podcast platform, and all our shows, of course, can be found on paceradio.net online, as well as here at Pace Radio Network on Facebook, as well as Instagram. And I'm here tonight with us. We are your guests tonight, giving you an update on our own personal journeys using psychedelic medicines and how that's been going over the course of the summer. And we've got a guest joining us as well in this segment to talk a little bit about maybe some of the changes that she has seen personally with one of us as being the patient. So yeah, one of us is really brave, bringing on a family member, and we're gonna find out who that is. I'm gonna add this person into the stream, and I'm gonna let my joint host do the introduction. Cindy, take her away.
Everybody, this is my daughter, Christina. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Christina. Thank you for joining us tonight. Cindy's daughter is in the house with us tonight to talk about some of the changes that she may have seen or may not have seen in her mom, good, bad, and otherwise. And we're going to get the inside scoop from family. Very cool. Very cool. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I don't have anything really prepared to say. Mom asked me pretty last minute to hop in today, but I'm here. My heart is pounding. I'm very nervous. It's okay because I'm here. So
That's okay. We'll walk you through it. We'll walk you through it. You're not our first nervous guest, that's for sure. So your mom has been very open about her journey, and she's been very open about her struggles that she's gone through with her PTSD and where it came from and how it evolved and everything. I've known your mom for quite some time, but we really got to know each other over the course of the last 16 months or so through IWK. 18 months, I guess it's been now since we've really started communicating on IWK. And I'm going to tell the truth here, because that's what we're all about. When Cindy approached me, and I approached her about having her on the show, I did mention it to a couple of people. I think I'm going to ask Cindy and let Cindy come and join us. And people were kind of like, she really complains a lot. You got to be careful and this and that and the other. And I thought, no, you know what? Something about her. I'm doing this. I think she just needs some encouragement. She just needs somebody to believe in her. And I was happy to be that person. So I brought her on, and I couldn't be happier. She was fantastic on IWK, but at the same time, because our relationship was growing, I knew at the end of that sesh, she would turn the camera off and she was falling apart because of her PTSD. She was hiding it on camera really well, and she was still falling apart. And I did my best to try and boost her, but it's hard when you're really far away and it's only over a camera. And I'm curious. I know the changes that I've seen from then till now after iboga, and I'm curious to know what your experience has been with your mom and some of the changes that you've noticed.
okay. Before we get emotional, I'll tell you a funny story. So
All right.
I get to pick her up when she got back from the trip. and I laughed so hard. So I was sitting out in my car, her car. I drove her car there to pick her up, and I was just waiting, and I watched all these people come out, and she wasn't coming out, and I was thinking, oh God, this is going to be bad. So I sat there and I waited, and she finally wanders, and she gets in the car and she goes, I'm allowed to swear, right?
Yes.
Okay. She goes,
Yeah.
They lost my fucking bag. And I was just like, oh, something bad's going to happen. I don't know what to do. It's so early in the morning. I'm like, oh God. And she just goes, yeah, they said they'll call me, but they lost my fucking bag. And it was the one with all the gifts in it too. And I was just like, okay. Nothing happened. And I was like, wow.
You were waiting for the pop,
this is
right?
different.
You were waiting for the pop.
Yeah, and I was. And I was, it was hilarious at the time, but looking back, it was that first moment that I went, wow, like something has changed. And it's just been like little things after that. I mean, even my mom and I have had, we've had a tough relationship. A lot of times. We've had a lot of times that we've butt heads. One or the other of us just couldn't handle what the other person was going through in life. So that just put a pause on our interactions. And it wasn't easy. But now, I mean, like, I have a hard day and she's just like, yeah, we're gonna do this, like, and just turns my whole day around. And the strength that she has to be able to be my strength on days that I can't is is so different, because I mean, I've always wanted my mom, you know? I always just wanted my mom, and it's really cool to have her now.
And I both did this.
So I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but if that shows some of the change, then
yeah. I've said from the start, the change is profound that I can see. So I can imagine what it's like for those of you that are close to her on a daily basis. My interaction with your mom is limited through social media and through video and our working relationship, which is long distance. So up close and personal, the changes have got to be almost overwhelming, I would think. I know I so enjoyed spending that time with your mom in Toronto. We spent an extended weekend together. We were together for 5 days in Toronto, and I had the time of my life. And knowing what she was going through and the struggles that she did relate to me prior to her Iboga trip and prior to us getting together in Toronto, I know that you guys went through a lot of shit. I've been through a lot of shit with my kids, so I can relate when I was a mess. And I can relate, and my heart goes out to you because I understand that pain. I understand that struggle. And unfortunately, I don't have a relationship with my children at this point where I would be able to share the differences with them. And it thrills me to death that you guys do.
Me too, by the way. Me too. I people's reaction to me, I think, is where I see the difference, because Christina calls me on the regular now, and I never had that before.
But yeah, we'll talk on the phone for like 2 hours about nothing.
Yeah. So I like that relationship. It's I wish that I had done this years ago.
Bufo just made a comment. Sorry. Bufo commented with a question. He wants to know if you were like 9 when you had this child.
No, I was 20.
Yeah, he doesn't think you look anywhere near old enough to have a child Christine's age. So Christine,
thank you, Bufo.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is like a last resort for most people in our positions, in your position especially, with the major issues that you suffered that you were trying to get over. It's viewed as the last resort for many patients and most people out there. It's like, oh well, I've tried everything else. I've got to do this because there's nothing left. Christine, I'm going to ask you this. Knowing that and knowing what your mother has gone through, pharmaceutical train, therapies, all of this stuff for the last forever many years, and then to find out that this plant can do this for her in a week and she comes back a different person, how do you feel about that? Does that piss you off? That it wasn't a first resort instead of a last resort? And I would put that on the pharmaceutical companies firmly and squarely on their shoulders for pushing drugs. Just FYI.
Yeah, and I so disagree with pushing the drugs, because I've been thrown off and on them for years myself and never found any help out of them. But I guess all I can offer here is my own opinion, and I don't agree that pushing people onto something without explaining it or without being sure that it's the right decision for them, regardless if it is pharmaceutical or natural. I think that the decision needs to be seen through, explained, and decided upon without just throwing somebody on and off of it. And from like that being said, it should be just as important for them to explore different options. So am I angry that it's not something that they try to learn about more? Yes. But how can they present it as an option to somebody if they don't know about it? And I think that's the issue. So that's what makes me angry, is that they don't say, hey, like, we're going to explore all these options in labs. Well, why aren't you exploring these other options in labs too? Like, because you can. You have that ability. So if it's something that could make a difference, why aren't you looking at that? That's the part that I think makes me angry.
That's awesome.
Because I can't,
absolutely.
you can't advise on something you don't know about. So that there is what the problem is that they're not taking the time to learn about it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that being fast tracked now. People are taking the time to learn, the different elements in several psychedelic plants, and as well as psychedelic chemicals that are out there, such as lysergic acid, LSD, ketamine, and the rest of them that are chemically reproduced. But they've been around for almost 100 years and been utilized as other therapies in medicine, such as anesthetics and that kind of a thing, very, very safely. Now these elements are being explored as medicines for the mind as well as the body. And that's exciting. We're seeing major corporations that are in the cannabis field diving into this space now. And they've got the dollars to back up these studies. So we're really we're living in some exciting times for the future people that are struggling with these things. Perhaps they will have to walk a much shorter path than your mom.
Yeah, and that's what one can hope. And it makes me so excited that people are exploring these things, because things need to be explored. That's how things change. And it's been a long time coming to take a look at things that have been used in the natural, like back in the day, so to speak. And by back in the day, I'm talking like, years and years and years ago, when
years.
Before the Industrial Revolution. What did they do then? And nobody's kind of taken that and looked at it scientifically like we do in like today's world. And that connection needs to be bridged in so many different areas of what we live with. Like, I'm taking that from what I'm learning in school and applying it to the situation. So like the bridge needs to be made between technology and the old ways. And that's what I see happening here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We need to reconnect with nature. The majority of the pharmaceuticals that are out there are based on plants. They find a plant and they say, hey, this plant does that. How can we chemically recreate this and make it this element stronger, and this element geared to this, and this element carrying an extra element, and then chemically reproducing something on a different molecular level that we can already find in nature.
Yeah, they got
why
it
don't
wrong.
we just eat the plant? Why don't we just eat the plant?
Like, why are you going through all that? Yeah.
They're getting a lot of it wrong. As we know, when we had Gareth on, we learned that there is a reproduction for the ibogaine, and it works identically. So they got that one right. But that wasn't the government. That wasn't pharmacologists putting that together. That was people who want, well, shit, we can't grow this all around the world. We can only grow this in Africa. It's the only place that it grows properly. So there must be a way that we can make it to get it out to more people. So it's people that made it out of love, not people that made it out of love of money. And that's made a huge difference. That helps the practitioners and the guides be able to get it more regularly. And that's a good thing. But we have, there's a new documentary just about to come out that's exploiting a lot of this. They found things like the cocoa leaf, and they exploited that. They found things like in poppies, you know what I mean? Opium. They found the natural, the poppy seed, and they exploited that. They're trying to make money, and they're trying to get people addicted, so people will continue to spend money. And it's those things that you got to be terrified of. Hi, Carolyn.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Chemically reproducing what we're finding in nature. And, you know, a 1 week journey, like your mom's was much longer, but that was part vacation as well for the actual treatment.
Yeah.
It's you know, under 1 week of a vacation, and you can come back a different person, and you're and you did this with a plant.
Yeah.
That's why isn't I'm going to go back to it because it bothers me immensely that this is seen as a last resort. You know, they added in end of life as one of the criteria that you can get a Section 56 because they figure, well, you're out of options. It doesn't matter. You're dying anyway. So, yeah, you're going to be allowed to do it. And you can have a Section 56. We do have some medical documentation and experimentation with many of the substances, especially psilocybin, that are already on the books. It was already used medicinally in the past until it became illegal, much the same path that cannabis has traveled. So we do have some documentation, and we do have patients out there that are allowed to use it under a Section 56 if you apply for it. So we can't say 100% there's no medicinal value. So I know we need more study, but they say that we still need more study on cannabis too. And now it's legal recreationally, but they're still studying it for medicine, you know, and here we are 20 years later that it's been a legal medicine in this country, but it still needs more study, you know.
Yeah.
So I view psilocybin and several of these psychedelics out there, especially ones that are chemically reproduced, like ketamine. It's been an accepted drug in the pharmacopoeia for almost 100 years, repurposing drugs for other things because you find out that they do well with that other thing is common practice in the pharmaceutical world. So I object to the barriers that are being put up for using these substances to treat mental illness and PTSD and depression and a host of other things because they're already there.
I think,
you know, I want them to be first choice, not last.
Yeah.
I feel like media plays a big part in everything too. Media portrays a lot of things psychedelic, or like even like iboga or peyote or anything like that. Anything that I've known of it to see on TV or to hear of is terrifying, quote unquote. And it's not something that, like, I think these documentaries about putting out what it can do, if it's something that's gonna play a big part in growing its accessibility as a medicinal route, because the publicity around it and the media around it makes it so unattractive to so many people, and it makes it scary to so many people, and that stigma needs to be changed to coincide with everything else.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, like that. You're like, I mean, like it's because of what I have seen in media, not necessarily a couple of documentaries that I've seen, but we've seen other things throughout the years to do with big trips on peyote, and they're not nice. Like they're not like, I mean, like what we've been shown in, you know, some movies or some media is just, it's been quite scary.
Terrifying.
Yeah. So you know,
funny, you know, again, the parallels with cannabis, you know, we've seen this demonization, stigmatization, and then, you know, just outright shaming with the cannabis industry. And it's funny because I wrote a paper for McMaster when I was at McMaster. I wrote a paper and it popped up as one of those memory things that pop up, and it put it on social media, and it popped up. And I did a comparison in the cannabis world, and it's very much the same. Media, Hollywood, whether anything from Hollywood to a talk show, and right down to the news wires, demonization of cannabis. You've got Cheech and Chong grabbed hold of that lazy stoner and brain dead ways and made a mint off of it. But I mean, but at the same time, that went out there and that perpetuated the image of the lazy stoner. It added to the stigma, and they are stoners that aren't lazy because they're working their asses off making movies, but they're perpetuating the stigma of the lazy stoner while they're doing it, and happily. Which is something that was always very confusing to me. And, we see it throughout television history and movie history in Hollywood, right up into the 2000s, and where you get Seth Rogen in Pineapple Express, and then Kathy Bates did the one for Netflix on Disjointed. At least with Kathy Bates one, the medicinal value education was in there, but
And
the
there was some
lazy stoner and there was highlights here and there. They
there's some
did
high
put a little bit more
education,
educational value in there.
But then the two
the
that were
lazy
the
stoner was
YouTubes,
there.
the
The lazy
YouTubers.
stoner was there, and the brain dead grower, that just the stoner whole idea. I mean, it had to be in there. Again, continuing to perpetuate that stigma. We see it with psychedelics. Every movie that you see. What's that one where the guy does something? He does ludes, and his legs are melting, and he thinks he drove his car home okay, and it wasn't okay because he was wasted on ludes, and just psychedelics, and portraying what happens in the world of psychedelics with somebody that does them. I would love to see somebody make a show that portrays somebody using plant therapy, no matter what that plant therapy is, using plant therapy, and they are living a productive life.
Yeah.
Cindy and I, okay, for example, your mom and I, we work our butts off producing shows and doing radio and podcasting and learning programming and learning how to do stuff we never thought we could do, and just putting in all these exhaustive hours about learning and finding stories and guests and everything else. Nobody would ever make a show about us because that throws the stigma in the garbage. We're productive.
Yeah. And that's
that
that's
bothers
it
me.
too.
It's part of the problem.
Yep. Stigma cannabis is becoming more accepting, but the stigma isn't going away as quickly as it really should. And media is a large part of it.
Oh, huge. Mainstream media. We got to make sure we put that in there, because there is a very large difference from the stuff being produced mainstream media and the stuff being produced on the podcast level, through social media, through people like you and I, and producing this show. This is media as well. So we got to make sure we always say mainstream, because that's not us. What do you call it? Grassroots or underground or whatever term you want to use. We're not mainstream, that's for sure. And I'd like to see this level of honesty and clear representation for people in mainstream, in Hollywood.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see a character on a show who medicates on the regular with psilocybin or cannabis. That would be it would help. It would go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Stigma abound. It continues, right? And we've got to keep fighting that to affect change in the future. Cindy, microdosing. Let's talk microdosing for a few minutes. So there's various schools of thought when it comes to microdosing. You and I were both microdosing psilocybin prior to your iboga journey, but now since your iboga journey, you gave up the psilocybin in order to microdose just the iboga. So how has that gone?
It's amazing. It's amazing. I am a person who is extremely open to the medicine and to the spirit. And we found that out with my handshake dose. It turned out to be quite a big larger dose than just a handshake dose. So when I take a very minor dose, I take 25 milligrams. My next one is set at 26 milligrams. When I take that, I have a 30-minute spirit walk. I mean, like when it comes into effect, I lay back, I put on the Bowitti music, and I get to close my eyes and have a spirit walk. And it's just a short one, but it's just I get to meet up with Iboga. We have met in a couple of different places. It's been fantastic, and I just get some reassurance. We have a little chat. And he reminds me to love myself is the big thing. And then I come back and I feel unbelievably refreshed, right? The whole process takes about 2 hours altogether, from the time I take the microdose to the time my feet come back fully on the ground. And then I spend the rest of my day reflecting, and being at peace. I don't run off and, go visit friends and have a coffee, right? I stay at home and have a bath, and I might do some paperwork, and, I'll still do it on IWK show days, because I can just sit back for half an hour and kind of like have a conversation with everybody in my jammies. And yeah, so it's kind of an all day process, but it really is. From the time you take the medicine to the time your feet are fully back on the ground, it's 2.5 hours, and I get a 30-minute spirit walk out of that, and it's just freaking spectacular. Yeah.
So that's a huge difference from microdosing the psilocybin. For me, like I mean, you don't go on a spirit walk when you microdose psilocybin. When we're microdosing psilocybin, for anybody that's new and is interested in this for information, you don't actually feel high.
Anything.
You shouldn't feel anything except maybe happier. So you do feel something in that way. You'll be in a good mood. I had a conversation with two ladies that I was with today. I had to go out this afternoon to another event, and we wound up in a conversation about microdosing psychedelics. And they were curious, and I said, "Yeah, no, you don't feel. It's not like you're not high. You can still function. You're out and you're enjoying your day." And I looked at them and I said, "You know what? The days that I microdose, there ain't nobody shitting in my cornflakes." And it's just it's just
and when I was microdosing,
right?
and
You're just happy.
Yeah, I still do the odd microdose of psilocybin, but I microdose with that in the morning, and it sets the day, right? I mean, it's a very small amount. Like you say, you don't feel anything. I feel clearer, happier,
yes,
and I have a bit more energy than on days that I
lots of energy.
Yeah, so it's and I, of course, I've learned, like when I was setting up to take iboga, and I microdose when I'm talking to guides, and they're like, "Microdose what?" Because I didn't realize that you microdosing everything, right? Like, so yeah, in iboga,
so it is two very different experiences doing
100%.
a microdose with iboga than it is doing it with psilocybin. With iboga, even a microdose is still a spirit walk. And in order to gain a spirit walk with psilocybin, you've got to do a pretty good hero dose. To do that. So very, very large difference in the effects between the two at onset, but the effects afterwards, depending on the person, can be very similar if the right person is doing the right treatment. For you, it works for the iboga, and for me, I feel the same sense of calm after a microdose.
Yeah, and I mean, I do too. Like they are different and like very different. Like, I mean, I don't want to microdose with iboga as much as I would microdose with psilocybin. There are times where I could microdose with iboga, say tomorrow, and then, have a bad day and say, okay, well, tomorrow I just want to make sure my day turns around. So I'm going to take a psilocybin microdose. It's kind of like psilocybin's almost turned into the Ativan of the natural world for me. Like, okay, well, no, I'm going to make sure I have a good day. I'm taking some lion's mane and some penis envy and some, and I pop it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I swear to God, I've never said penis so much on the air as I have in the last few years.
I love talking about them. Penis envy.
Yeah, for those of you that are out there, if you're new, there is a strain of psilocybin mushrooms in it. They are called penis envy. Yes, that is the name of the mushroom. Google it. Take a look at the pic, and you'll know exactly why it got its name. So using the word penis in the office and on the air, and it happens a lot these days. Thanks to penis envy, for sure. It's a very good strain, though. It is a very good strain. It's clean. And I think it's more, for me anyway, the effects that I get are more clear-minded.
Yep. It works amazing. Well, for me, it works amazing with lion mane, because the two of them together, because lion mane is very clarifying. Very clarifying. I mean, like people drink lion's mane coffee just because it's so clarifying. And I find that penis envy complements it very, very well, because it does the same. It helps to lift that fog. So if you're like, I mean, and I have fibro fog, right? So that's another reason why, like, I'll pop a lion's mane if I feel the fibro fog really bad when I wake up in the morning. Well, I'm gonna chase it away, and it's so nice to have natural
lion's
medicine.
mane is legal.
100%.
It's legal.
Yep.
It's not one on the prohibited list.
Yep. And Jameson even has jumped on board. The makers, like the vitamin people, they make a mushroom complex now, full of lion's mane, and a few other legal. Yeah. And I haven't tried it yet.
One guy is making huge leaps. He
is. Next time I see them, I'm gonna get a pack, because I want to try them. I haven't personally tried those ones yet, but I'd be curious to see how they compare to something with a little bit of psilocybin in it.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's been quite the journey. I know for me, microdosing works really well. The way I do it, 100% honesty here, the way I do it, lots of times I think I'm planning on a microdose, and I pull one out and I go, yeah, that looks good. And that was like, oh, that was a little bit too big. It's not quite a microdose anymore. And I have a far more interesting day than what I originally had planned. So, we're going to come back to this one more time. We do things far differently. You're measured meter doses by the clock. My alarm is going off. It's time to take it right now. It's this day. That's the day that it happens, where I'm like, when I think of it. And sometimes I get into trouble with the way that I do it. It's not ideal. That's for sure. I know it, but I still do it this way. I keep saying, yeah, I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna be more regimented. I'm gonna get on that, and I still haven't.
You've had a plan for a couple of weeks now. Okay, Cindy, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try it your way.
I'm gonna do it.
Okay,
I am. I'm gonna do it. No, and I haven't yet. No, I haven't. So yeah, I think I should, though, because accidents sometimes happen. And I plan a microdose day, and it turns into a macrodose day, or a mini macrodose day. And I had shit to do, and I didn't get it done. So it's not always a good thing. And sometimes I wait too long.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wait too long as well. That's another big problem. It's okay, I'm already I'm at the point where I'm almost ready to break down. And it's like, okay, see, you waited too long. You should have done this 3 days ago to stop you from getting to this point. And scheduled dosing would help with that.
Yeah,
So for
it's
those of you that are out there and saying like, "Oh, I'm going to do it the way Kim does it," I'm not recommending it. I don't recommend it. I'm a wing it person, and it's the way I do things. Not necessarily the correct way, though. You know.
I found for the years leading up to my iboga, I microdosed for just about 3 years with psilocybin, and I found that the regimented doses were amazing. Once in a while, I would on microdose day, I would switch it up a little bit because I had some LSD and some MDA. I had a few other psychedelics that I could microdose with. So I researched on how to microdose with those. And I thought I did a good job. I never thought of diluting the LSD until we had Jerry on, but now that I know that, I might make drops out of my LSD just for that reason, right? But yeah, it's I would put something else in there on days like, because where I wasn't used to them, I would make sure that they were days that I was going to be spending at home. And normally I clean the house. If I microdose with a little bit of LSD or MDA, I'd be like off. But very similar in uplifting effects to the psilocybin. So it's all just, I guess, what you're comfortable with. And there's amazing ways out there now that people are coming up with to be able to microdose efficiently with these different products. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we're getting close to the end of the show. I want to wrap things up with going into the future with all of us for a minute. Let's start with you, Cindy. What plans for the future, advancements in your treatment using psychedelics? What's the next step for you?
I am hoping if it can happen in the next few months to be able to take another DMT ceremony. I found that incredibly uplifting. And whether or not that happens next September, I am off to Vancouver one more time is my hope. And this time I'm going to be doing a Cambo ceremony. It's another natural medicine that I am learning all about. I learned about through Gareth and Blair. It detoxifies the body. So it does. It doesn't take you on a spirit walk. It's a much shorter trip, not as short as DMT. But some people find spiritual clarity, but it really does concentrate on completely detoxifying the body. They put little burns in your skin, and then they'll take the sap, this Cambo, and they put in the burns and they cover it, and your body absorbs it, and then it does its magic from there. It's usually over 2 days. They again want you to do a handshake dose, and then you go into your big dose. And I have to get over my fear of throwing up in front of people, because it's going to make me throw up in front of people, whether I want to or not. And then I hope to be doing another iboga journey at that point in time, a couple of weeks after that. And in between them, there is the psychedelic conference going on in Vancouver in October of 2022. So I'm trying to line all of that up so I can do Cambo, have a bit of a rest, and then go visit Gareth and Blair and do another iboga journey, followed by a DMT journey. Super excited.
Awesome. Amazing. Are you excited for, I guess you're excited for your mother's continued journey, Christina?
Yeah.
Do you have I guess lots of catching up to do with your mom? You've got any last words of that you'd like to talk about with your mom, or say to your mom or to our listeners about your experiences with her changes and transformation on her journey?
I'm excited to see what else everything can do for her. I'm always very interested in listening and learning, because all of this stuff is very foreign to me, especially to be talked about in like this context and everything. So I find it very interesting, and I've always been interested in natural ways and like, as natural as you can be. And so I find it very cool that she's pursuing this path, even though it's not one that I'm particularly familiar with. So yeah, I'm here. I listen. I'm excited to learn and, see what else comes next.
Learning with mom on the road. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, as for me and my journey, really going to try and buckle down. It's been a hell of a summer for me. I didn't handle my psychedelic journey well through my busy time. I kind of let it dangle in the way most of the time throughout the summer. I didn't microdose as often as I should have. I did not macrodose properly or as often as I should have. There was one macrodose that was strictly recreational, and the medicinal kind of got left by the wayside. And while I still don't have a problem with recreational use of some of these elements in a controlled fashion, of course, but I can't neglect the medicinal. When I do neglect the medicinal because I think I'm feeling all right, that's when I wind up in trouble. Now, when I say in trouble, it's I feel myself slipping, right? My PTSD is, average for the times that I lived in, growing up in foster care with social services throughout my life. So regular shit from that. And then compounded by my automobile accident is what I've been dealing with for my trauma. And while I do all right with it, I could be doing better. I could be doing a lot better. I could be not having the pitfalls that I currently have if I stopped thinking I was doing all right and let it slide. And I think other people are on that same train. You do your microdoses, you do your macrodoses, you come back and you're like, hey man, I feel great. Okay, so I don't need to do that no more because I feel good now. And that's not the way to go. Microdosing, I think needs to be taken seriously, and a hell of a lot more seriously probably than what I am applying to it. So I have to get myself straight over the holidays that are coming up. My build is almost complete. I'm almost settled in this house that was supposed to take 8 weeks to get complete, and here we are 5 months later and I'm still working on it. So that's been like in my head and kind of knocked my whole path right off its track. But I'm getting back. So we are all seeing the end light at the end of the tunnel. I have to get myself to a point where I am more regimented, so that when life issues like happen over the course of the next year, I won't fall off the track again. So continuing my journey and muddling my way through. Yeah. I thank you all for joining us. Christina, thanks for popping in and talking about your mom.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. It's awesome. And Cindy, great
Yes,
to
ma'am.
talk to you.
Always
Check
great to
in
talk
with
to you.
everybody. As always, here on Open Your Eye. Next week, got a special guest for you coming at you.
Yeah.
I want to say it, but I don't want to jinx it. Oh, to hell with it. I'm going to say it. Mark Whitaker. Mark Whitaker is going to be in the house with us.
Yeah,
2
the person
weeks
that
from
is
tonight
responsible from that
OYE.
story. Yeah, the person that is responsible for that whole B+ trip.
Yeah,
he's going to be here.
Yeah, the recreational weekend that we had. Mark Whitaker is absolutely responsible for that. Oh, and I love him so much. And I'm looking forward to having Mark in the house here on Open Your Eye in 2 weeks' time. Join us back again then. And next week, we are back in the house on Psychedelic Tuesdays with our brand new show, The Psychedelic Reporters. It'll be me, Cindy, and of course, Bufo Alvarius, bringing you all the top news in the psychedelic realm here on paceradio.net. We'll see you all next week on Psychedelic Reporters and 2 weeks on OIE. Thanks, everybody. Ciao for now.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
The Pace Radio Network is the place to be for all your information from the world of psychedelics because we are pleased to bring our listeners 2 shows focusing on psychedelic therapy in the world of natural medicine. First up, we have Open Your Eye, which airs on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of each month. Open Your Eye is a 90-minute video podcast with Kim Cooper and Cindy Howell interviewing patients and professionals in the space. Patient stories, facilitators, lawyers, and others discuss their journeys and endeavors involving psychedelic medicine. But they're not done, because Kim and Cindy are back on alternate Tuesdays at 7 p.m. with Psychedelic Reporters as they bring along the show's mascot, Bufo, aka the Colorado Mud Toad, who is scouring the news wires for all the latest in psychedelic news. He then passes it on to Kim and Cindy to cover in this 60-minute video news podcast. So tune in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern for Psychedelic Tuesdays right here on the Pace Radio Network, found at paceradio.net.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CP.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponics system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.